Have you ever wondered if it's possible to change your life in just 3 days? It sounds crazy, but the truth is that transformation starts with simple, small but powerful actions. And all of this can be done in a short space of time if you know exactly what to do. Imagine an ancient, tried and tested method that will help you take control of your mind, your emotions and your life in a practical and immediate way. I'm talking about Stoicism, a philosophy that has changed the lives of thousands of people over the centuries. And here's the good news. You too can experience this change now, starting with 7 simple habits which, if applied correctly, will transform your life into just 3 days. That's right, 3 days. And I'll show you how. It's not about empty promises or quick fixes. I'm talking about proven techniques that work, that can be applied today. If you want to take control of your life, stop being a victim of circumstances and start living with purpose and discipline. Stay with me until the end. What's more, if you are committed to your personal growth and want to delve deeper into more content that will really make a difference, subscribe to the channel and become a member. Together, we will reach new heights. So, if you are ready to take the first step towards a new life, now is the time. Let's start this journey together. First, practice the dichotomy of control. 3 days may seem short, almost insignificant compared to the immensity of time. But for those who decide to change, 3 days can be the beginning of a new story. True transformation does not begin when everything is perfect around us, but rather when we take the first step with courage, even in the midst of chaos. Stoicism teaches us exactly this. Changing is not about controlling the world outside, but about controlling what happens inside. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic masters, said, "It is not things that disturb us, but the opinion we have about them." In other words, change begins when we change our outlook on life, and it can start now. Imagine waking up tomorrow with the clear awareness that you have complete control over your actions, your reactions, and your attitude towards challenges. There is no need to wait for a Monday, a new month, or a new year. Transformation begins when you decide to live with intention. Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not over events. Realize this and you will find strength. The strength you need to change your life is already there, just waiting to be awakened." These next 3 days are an invitation to get off autopilot and start living consciously. There are 72 hours in which you can train your mind, cultivate habits that reinforce your discipline, and discover that true freedom lies in living in line with your values. Seneca said that life is long enough for those who know how to use it well. And using time well starts with small but conscious choices. It's easy to underestimate the power of 3 days. But it's not just about time itself. It's about the decision to face them with intensity and purpose. 3 days of focus can be more transformative than years of procrastination. Stoic philosophy is not a distant theory. She is practical, she is action, and it is within your reach. If you dive into these habits sincerely, not only will you see changes, but you will feel like you are finally taking control of your own existence. You don't need miracles. You just need clarity, direction, and courage. And this, the Stoics taught us centuries ago. Are you ready to apply this ancient knowledge and change your life in just 3 days? So move on. The time is now. Second, meditate on death. Memento mori. Stoicism is one of the oldest and most transformative philosophies in existence, created more than 2,000 years ago, but still incredibly current. It was born in Athens around the year 300 BC with Zeno of Citium, and was widely developed by great names such as Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius. Unlike other philosophical schools that were limited to theory, Stoicism was essentially practical. He taught not just how to think, but how to live. And perhaps that is the reason why it has crossed centuries and gained so much space today. Living better, according to the Stoics, does not depend on the world around us, but on the way we react to it. In a world where everything seems out of control, Stoicism offers us an anchor. He invites us to focus only on what depends on us, our attitudes, our thoughts, and our choices. As Epictetus, a former slave who became one of the greatest masters of philosophy, said, "It is not the things that disturb us, but the opinion we have about them." This simple idea changes everything, because it shows that even in the face of pain, loss, or injustice, we still have power over how we will behave. Imagine waking up every day knowing that time is limited. This sounds heavy, but for Stoics, it is one of the most liberating practices. The famous phrase, "You can leave life now. Let it determine what you do, say, and think," written by Marco Aurelio in his diaries, is not an invitation to fear, but to urgency. By remembering that tomorrow is not guaranteed, we are called to live today with presence, focus, and purpose. Another central point of Stoicism is the idea of virtue as the greatest good. For the Stoics, success, fame, and wealth mean nothing if they are not accompanied by character, wisdom, courage, and justice. "Happiness is enjoying the present moment without anxiously depending on the future," wrote Seneca. This teaches us not to live in pursuit of external things, but to cultivate a solid inner life, capable of withstanding the storms. In modern times, where we are bombarded by distractions, social pressures, and constant crises, Stoicism emerges as an emotional survival manual. He reminds us that we can find peace, even in chaos, if we learn to govern our own spirit. This philosophy is a daily practice, a conscious choice to keep your mind steady, even when the world falls apart. And that's what makes it a philosophy for better living, because it transforms us from the inside out. By understanding and applying Stoicism, you begin to see problems as tests of character, obstacles as opportunities for growth, and life as a fragile gift that deserves to be lived with wisdom and intention. Like a calm warrior in the midst of battle, you learn to master yourself, and that is where true freedom begins. Third, make daily reviews. Have you ever felt frustrated by something that simply wasn't in your hands? Maybe unexpected traffic, an unfair criticism, or even someone else's behavior. Stoic philosophy teaches us that one of the most powerful keys to inner peace lies in a simple yet profound distinction, the difference between what is within our control and what is not. This idea is known as the dichotomy of control. Epictetus, one of the greatest names in Stoicism, once said, "Some things are in our power, while others are not." This phrase seems simple, but it is life-changing. What he means is that we spend a lot of our energy, mental health, and time trying to control that which is completely beyond our reach. People, opinions, external events, results, all of this is beyond our control. But there is something that will always be yours: your actions, your choices, your attitude towards the world. Imagine for a moment that you are starting a new project. You can control your effort, your discipline, and the time you dedicate to it, but you can't control public acceptance, the economy, or the opinions of others. When you understand this division and start focusing only on what is within your reach, you free your mind from a huge burden. Marcus Aurelius, Stoic emperor and philosopher, wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not over external events. Realize this, and you will find strength. And that force changes everything." Applying this habit over the next 3 days is a challenge and a liberation at the same time. Whenever something irritates you, ask yourself, can I control this? If the answer is no, then letting go is the best choice. This does not mean being passive, but rather being strategically calm. Instead of reacting, you respond wisely. Instead of suffering from expectations, You focus on what you can do now. The dichotomy of control is the beginning of every Stoic transformation, because it teaches you to reclaim the power that has always been with you, but that we often give into the hands of chance. By practicing it consciously, you not only reduce stress, but also increase your clarity, productivity, and emotional balance. For the next 3 days, challenge yourself to live through this lens. Faced with any situation, identify what depends on you and what doesn't. Cultivate the courage to act on what can be changed and the serenity to accept what cannot. As Epictetus would say, happy is he who desires what he has and not what he does not have. Change starts now when you choose to focus on what you can truly transform. Live with intention and purpose. Meditating on death may seem dark at first glance, but for Stoics, it is one of the most liberating and transformative practices there is. The habit of reflecting daily on death, known as memento mori, is an invitation to life with more intensity, presence, and purpose. When you truly understand that your existence is limited, you begin to value each moment as unique, each gesture as unrepeatable, and each choice as part of your story. The Stoics did not speak of death to feed fear, but rather to eliminate the waste of life. Seneca wrote, "You act like a mortal in everything you fear, and like an immortal in everything you desire." This phrase calls us to awareness of how we neglect time, postponing dreams, forgiving later, starting on Monday, as if there were guarantees that we will have that time later. And if there isn't? For the next 3 days, stop for a few minutes every morning and ask yourself, what if today was my last day? This question should not bring panic, but clarity. What really matters? What deserves my attention, my energy, my love? What would I put aside if I knew time was running out? This practice changes the way you see problems, reduces the weight of small concerns, and reveals what really has value. Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor, and one of the greatest representatives of Stoicism, recorded in his writings, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. When remembering death, you do not give in to despair, but connect with the present in a deeper way. You start to say more yes to what matters and more no to what takes you away from your purpose." Over the next 3 days, take this reflection with you. Don't run away from the reality of death. Use it as a mirror. When faced with a difficult decision, ask yourself, will this matter at the end of my life? When you're about to react impulsively, think, am I living like someone who understands the value of time? Memento mori. It is not a reminder of the end, but of the beginning. A daily call not to waste the most precious things you have. And by applying this habit sincerely, even for a few days, you will begin to feel your life change. You will become calmer, more present, and more determined, because whoever contemplates death with wisdom learns to live truthfully. Fifth, cultivate a self-discipline. Doing daily reviews is one of the most powerful habits of Stoicism and can completely change the way you see your life. The Stoics taught that excellence does not come by chance, but through constant observation of oneself. Epictetus said, "Examine yourself. Reflect on your actions and how you live. That is philosophy." This habit of looking inside every day is like a mirror that reveals your virtues and your deviations and gives you the opportunity to correct your course before it is too late. The practice is simple but profound. When you wake up, ask yourself, what am I going to do today? How can I act in accordance with reason, with virtue, with courage, with wisdom? And at the end of the day, before going to sleep, stop for a few minutes to reflect. What did I do well today? Where did I fail? What can I improve tomorrow? This self-analysis should not be done with guilt, but with clarity. As Seneca taught, the unexamined life is not worth living. The idea is not to judge yourself harshly, but to observe yourself with honesty and compassion. In the first 3 days that you apply this habit, you will notice something surprising. Many of your behaviors happen on autopilot. By reviewing them, you regain the power to choose how you want to live. The Stoic mind values the intention behind each action. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "The soul becomes colored with the colors of its thoughts." This means that your essence is shaped by the small choices you make day after day. When you review these choices, you begin to see patterns, recurring decisions, and most importantly, opportunities for change. A practical suggestion is to keep a review notebook or a simple notebook. At the end of each day, briefly write down what you did, what you felt, and how you reacted. Ask yourself, has acting this way brought me closer to the person I want to be? In just 3 days, you will begin to notice your strengths and also what you need to transform. Consistency in this habit creates a cycle of conscious and continuous growth. By making daily reviews, you get closer to the Stoic ideal. Living with excellence, not wasting time, and guiding your life by reason and virtue, you become your own master, your own coach, adjusting the route whenever necessary. And as Epictetus reminded us, no great thing is created suddenly, but rather with patience and practice. May this habit, small in appearance but immense in impact, be your starting point for a fuller, more attentive, and true life. Sixth, practice Stoic gratitude. Living with intention and purpose is one of the most transformative pillars of Stoicism. For the Stoics, each action must be guided by reason and not impulse. This means that when you wake up, you shouldn't just go with the flow of the day like someone being pushed by circumstances. Instead, you must act clearly, knowing why you are doing each thing, even the simplest ones. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote in his Meditations, "Begin each day by saying to yourself, 'Today I will meet meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, envious and malicious people. All this happens to them because they ignore good and evil.'" With this simple reflection, he reminds us that when living with purpose, we must be prepared for the world as it is, without losing our center. Having a clear intention protects us from impulsive reactions and keeps us firm in our values, even when others test us. In just 3 days, you can already notice a profound change when applying this habit. As soon as you wake up, ask yourself, what is my intention for today? What can I do that aligns with my deepest values? It doesn't have to be something grand. It could be listening to someone patiently, completing a task with excellence, or even taking care of your health conscientiously. The difference is in taking these actions knowing why they matter. Epictetus, another great Stoic master, said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters." When you act with purpose, each choice becomes a thoughtful response, and not an impulsive reaction. This reduces regret, guilt, and anxiety because you begin to take control of your behavior and consequently your life. Over these 3 days, try pausing before acting. Ask yourself, does this attitude bring me closer or further away from the type of person I want to be? This simple question is a powerful anchor to stay focused on your purpose. Intention is what transforms an ordinary act into a virtuous practice. When you act with intention, even silence can be filled with meaning. Seneca wrote, "If a man does not know to what port he is heading, no wind will be favorable to him." This phrase summarizes why living with purpose is essential. Without direction, we waste energy, time, and opportunities. But with purpose, every moment, every challenge, every conversation becomes a chance to grow. Therefore, in these 3 days, live consciously, Question your actions, align your choices with what really matters, and you will feel in practice the strength of a Stoic habit that changes the way you see the world. When you live with intention, you stop being a victim of circumstances and become the author of your own story. Seventh, prepare yourself to prepare for adversidade, premeditation of evils. Cultivating self-discipline is one of the most powerful habits of Stoicism, and perhaps the most necessary to truly transform your life in just 3 days. The Stoics believed that real freedom is not in doing whatever you want, but in controlling your own impulses. Epictetus, one of the great names, in this philosophy said, "No person is free if they are not their own master." This phrase is a direct invitation to practice self-discipline. Self-discipline does not mean living a rigid, cold, or pleasureless life, but rather developing the ability to do what is right, even when it is not the easiest or most pleasant. It's waking up a little earlier to reflect on the day, even when your body wants to stay in bed. It's choosing silence and consideration in a discussion, even when pride calls for shouting. It's about staying focused on your goals, even when distractions appear in the form of social media, laziness, or bad company. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and philosopher, wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not over external events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This strength is exactly what self-discipline provides. When you understand that you cannot control the world, but you can control your choices, you become invincible from within. And this invincibility is built little by little, with small decisions made repeatedly. Over the next 3 days, challenge yourself. Choose an area of your life where you know you need more discipline. It could be in your eating habits, use of time, emotional control, organization, or consistency with a personal project. Make a real commitment, even if small, and stick to it with determination. As you do this, you will realize that true freedom comes from inner mastery. This is the kind of freedom that the Stoics defended, freedom of yourself for yourself. It's not about being perfect, but about being constant. Seneca said, "As long as we live, we must learn to live." And part of this learning is not bowing down to your own fleeting desires. Those who live as slaves to their own impulses are always at the mercy of chaos. But those who practice self-discipline build a solid foundation of character, focus, and direction. These 3 days may seem short, but if used with courage, they can be the beginning of a journey where you stop being guided by circumstances and start being guided by principles. And as the Stoics taught us, living guided by reason is the greatest sign of strength that a human being can achieve. Eighth, recap of the 7 habits with call to action. The practice of gratitude in Stoicism is not just a polite gesture or a superficial, emotional exercise. It is a powerful philosophical tool that changes the way you see the world and yourself. For Stoics, being grateful does not depend on the circumstances, but on the way you choose to interpret them. Epictetus said, "It is not things that disturb us, but the opinion we have about them." Within this logic, even challenges can be a reason for gratitude, as they are opportunities for growth and practice of virtue. Over the next 3 days, you can transform your perception of reality just by adopting this new outlook. When you wake up, instead of complaining about what is missing or what is difficult, try being grateful for the adversities, because they are what shape you. When you give thanks, even for difficult times, you take control of your mind and strengthen your resilience. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote, "When you get up in the morning, say to yourself, 'Today I will encounter meddling, ingratitude, arrogance, dishonesty, envy, and selfishness. They all arise because those who practice them do not know how to distinguish good from evil." He wasn't complaining. He was preparing himself, and this preparation comes from a grateful heart for being able to face the world with courage. Stoic gratitude, therefore, is not limited to being grateful only for good things. It extends to everything that contributes to your inner evolution. It's looking at an offense and being grateful for the chance to practice patience. It's seeing a failure and being grateful for the chance to start over with more wisdom. It's facing a loss and being grateful for having had something worth losing. Seneca reinforces this view when he states, "Difficulty strengthens the mind, as work strengthens the body." What does this teach us? That we should be grateful for the difficulties, as they are the academy of the soul. Apply this for the next 3 days. Every night, write down 3 things you are grateful for, even if they were difficult. It could be an argument, a failure, or even a disappointment. Find value in it. This simple practice will train your mind to seek learning instead of complaining. And as you get used to seeing value in everything that happens, your life starts to change because your perception changes. And when perception changes, everything changes. As Epictetus says, the key is to keep company only with people who lift you up, whose presence brings out the best in you. Gratitude connects you with this type of energy. It attracts you to what it builds and keeps you away from what it destroys. Therefore, being grateful is more than a practice. It is a Stoic decision to live with wisdom, acceptance, and purpose. Are you willing to look at your life with new eyes over the next 3 days? So start now. Give thanks, even for no reason, and see how everything around you begins to transform. Milk, encouragement to apply habits immediately. Habit 7, prepare for adversity, premeditation of evil. Imagine waking up in the morning and before starting your day, reflecting deeply on everything that could go wrong. It may seem negative at first glance, but it is actually one of the most powerful habits of Stoic philosophy. The Stoics called this practice premeditation of evils, or the premeditation of evils. It is a mental preparation exercise that teaches you to anticipate possible obstacles, difficulties, or losses, so that when they actually arise, and they will arise, you are emotionally ready, steady, centered. Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor, and one of the main representatives of Stoicism, wrote in his Meditations, "When you wake up in the morning, say to yourself, 'I will find meddlers, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, envious, and hostile. They are all like this because they ignore good and evil.'" With this simple reflection, Marco Aurelio was not regretting it. On the contrary, he was preparing. He understood that by anticipating adversity, he would not be surprised or overwhelmed by it, and that's exactly what you need to do if you want to change your life in just 3 days. Our most common mistake is believing that life will follow the ideal script. We hope that everything works as planned, that people act with respect, that traffic cooperates, that money is always available, that relationships flow easily. And when these expectations are broken, we react with frustration, anger, anxiety. The premeditation of evils break this cycle. By imagining obstacles beforehand, you strengthen your spirit. You create a kind of emotional shield. Epictetus reminds us, it is not things that trouble us, but the judgment we make of them. When you practice this habit, you are training your mind to deal with life's events without being dominated by them. It's not about expecting the worst, but about internally preparing for it so that you remain calm, rational, and resilient, even in the face of chaos. For the next 3 days, set aside a few minutes as soon as you wake up or before bed. Think, what could go wrong tomorrow? What if it rains on the day of the job interview? What if I get rejected? What if someone disappoints me? Visualize these situations, accept them as real possibilities. Then ask yourself, how can I act wisely in the face of this? How can I maintain my calm, my focus, my virtue? This simple exercise changes the way you live. You begin to see difficulties as tests of character, not as personal injustices. Start acting clearly, not impulsively. It starts to dominate the day instead of being dominated by it. Remember Seneca's advice. Fortune favors the prepared mind. When you prepare for evils, you don't despair when they knock on the door. You face them calmly, like a Stoic. And that's exactly where change begins. 10th, reflection on the results of change. If you applied these 7 habits in just 3 days, you have already taken a big step towards transforming your life. Stoic philosophy, with its emphasis on discipline, acceptance, and focusing on the present, is a proven path for those seeking to live with more purpose and clarity. But change doesn't happen overnight. It starts now. As Epictetus said, it is not the things themselves that disturb us, but the opinions we have about them. So by changing the way you see your actions and the world around you, you begin to take control of your own journey. The great lesson of Stoicism is that true change comes from within. You can expect the world to change, but nothing will happen if you don't change your attitude and your habits. Marcus Aurelius, Stoic emperor and philosopher, reminded us that each person's life is what his thoughts make of it. Therefore, by adopting these Stoic habits, you are shaping your mindset to be stronger, more focused, and more resilient in the face of adversity. And make no mistake, 3 days does not mean that your transformation journey has already come to an end. Quite the contrary. 3 days are just the beginning of a new way of living. You will continue to face challenges, but with a Stoic mindset, you will learn to see these challenges not as obstacles, but as opportunities for growth. As Seneca said, it is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult. So remember that the first step to change is always the hardest, but once taken, the next ones come more naturally. Each of us has the power to change our trajectory. True freedom comes from within, from accepting what we cannot control and committing to what we can change. In 3 days, you can begin to transform, but it is with constant practice and daily discipline that true change solidifies. Reflect on what you have already learned and continue applying these habits. Don't wait for perfection, but move forward every day, one step at a time. As Epictetus said, do not wait for an extraordinary opportunity, but make ordinary circumstances an extraordinary opportunity. Now it's up to you. What will you do with what you learned? The future is in your hands, and the power to change your life starts today, here, in this moment. If you're ready to transform your life in just 3 days, start by applying these 7 Stoic habits today. Remember, change doesn't happen tomorrow. It happens now. If this video made sense to you and if you are committed to your personal growth, subscribe to the channel and be part of this journey of transformation. I want to know, which of the habits will you start applying first? Leave your comment below. Let's exchange ideas and grow together.